Welcome to the Get Your Energy Back podcast. I'm Shelby Hansen, and I am here with an amazing coach that I met recently in Miami. It's actually at a conference, a money conference, learning about how to regulate our nervous systems around money. And I did a podcast on that. I met this amazing coach. Her name is Jenny Adams, and our energy just totally synced when we met each other. So I was so excited to introduce you to Jenny and to find out more about her story. Because the funny thing is, even though I've kind of followed her on Instagram, I don't know all of the intricacies of her story. So you're going to hear them alongside me the first time I hear them too. So welcome Jenny to the podcast.
Yay, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Yes, and if you can't tell from the accent, Jenny is from abroad. So Jenny, tell us where you're from and a little bit about you.
So I'm in the UK. I'm in England in the southwest. And yeah, I love it. I love being on American things. It makes me feel so British. I'm like, I'm off for tea with the Queen. We don't do
Love
that.
it.
But yeah, it was amazing that we just bumped into each other and we're like, I know you. So amazing energies meeting. And so interesting that we do such similar things as well. And we happen to be in the same place at the same time. And I think this is where some of the nervous system work brings all of this in together. So I'll tell you a bit about my story then.
Yes, please
So
tell us. Tell us how you came to coaching. Tell us what was going on before coaching happened. We want to hear all of the juicy details.
awesome, awesome. So I guess the main thing, the pinpoint moment, I spent a lot of my 20s in a wheelchair because my ME, chronic fatigue, was so bad. So this was kind of me at my worst point. Was I was just about holding down a job, but I was like rolling out of bed, putting on clothes which were often stretchy, inside out, back to front, just turning up at work, just like I'm here, I'm like a zombie. And then I go home, I sleep. And that was my life. There was no socializing, there was no joy. It was just like go to work, pay the bills, sleep, because I was so exhausted. And anytime I did want to go out, I couldn't walk very far. My energy would drop. I'd end up pushing myself too far, and then I'd end up crashing with my energy. So I eventually gave in to using a wheelchair, which I realized was not something to give into, but something that actually gave me some freedom. Soon realized the wheelchair, then I didn't have the energy to push. So I then bought myself a mobility scooter. Took out a big loan to get one, but it was like a fancy one that you can fold down and take on planes. And like that was my lease of life. It was having this mobility scooter. But obviously wasn't ideal for someone in their 20s to have to take this great big thing everywhere. And it also limited the small amount of movement I could do. I was then sitting down all day. So I get up and my back hurts, and there's just no, when you're just walking around the house and just doing those daily movements, that was gone. So that was probably me at my worst, and having panic attacks all the time, just feeling really unsafe in my body, not knowing what was going on, continually going to the doctors, and they're like, this is it, this is your life, here's some more medication, take more painkillers, take more antidepressants. And they have their place 100%. But for someone in their mid-20s to just be constantly medicated and that's it, just for me, it just wasn't good enough. And I spent probably 2 or 3 years, and I was like, this is my life. I just have to accept this. They've told me people don't recover. This is it. And then I think it got to about 2017, and I was like, I've had enough. What else can I look at? So I remember paying, and our healthcare system is different in the UK.
Yes.
And I see the attitude between the Brits and the Americans is different.
Yes.
So we have the NHS, so we get free healthcare, we get sort of free medication, cheap medication. So there's a lot of reliance on the NHS, which is massively under pressure at the moment, and was then, but even more so now. I'd keep going to the doctors. I ended up paying for a private doctor because the NHS doctors, they have less than 10 minutes with you. And when you have such a complex backstory and history, they don't have time. They're just like, what fire can we put out today? And I'd go in, I'm like, I can't sleep. Here's some sleeping pills. I'd go in, I'm stressed. Here's some antidepressants. My back hurts. Here's some painkillers. And it's like, that's it. And I remember I think I must have paid like £1,500, so like $2,000
Uh-huh.
for a private medical doctor. And I think it was the first time in my kind of medical life I'd gone to see a doctor who actually listened to my whole story and sat with me for an hour.
Yep.
And I just felt so seen and
Yes.
heard.
Yes.
And you probably find this in the work you do. So many of us, and for those listening, how important is it to just be seen and validated and know that you're not going crazy? It's not
Yes.
all in your head. Your pain is real. It might
Yes.
get processed in your brain, but it is real. And to have that experience, that kind of opened my eyes up to like, oh, hang on, this can change. I don't have to live like this forever. And we talk about this in the course that we're on, is that scarcity mindset and the lack. And there's more, there's abundance, there is energy everywhere. We are unlimited. So that was kind of my first step to recovery, was seeing this doctor. She then recommended to go and see like a physiotherapist, an osteopath. And it just happened to be at that time, there was like a magical trio of things that happened that I look back on now, and I think that was what got me better.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember taking my mobility scooter in to see this doctor, and I wouldn't even think twice about the distance walking now. It's nothing to me now. But the anxiety and all of that, I needed it. Yeah, so the magical trio for me was I found a movement modality that worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of people that have said, have you tried yoga? Have you done
I
this?
know.
And I literally had a sticker on my mobility scooter that said, yes, I have tried yoga. No, it did not work. Go away, basically.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And I'm hypermobile, which I didn't realize at the time. Yoga is not good for me. And hypermobility, EDS, also links into a lot of chronic fatigue and ME.
Definitely.
So the thing that I found that actually worked for me was Pilates and equipment Pilates. I think
Mm-hmm.
in the US, you probably know it as like reformer Pilates, but
Do
in
you know
the
what?
UK,
My sister actually owns a reformer Pilates studio in
oh,
Utah.
amazing.
We love Pilates over here.
Yeah, I know. But the way it's seen in the US is very different to the UK. In the UK, it's like a village hall full of old ladies on the floor, no equipment, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about having a stronger core and
Mm-hmm.
abs. And I'm just like, I can't do that. And I remember going to a pregnancy yoga class with my pregnant friend. I was not pregnant, but I was like, is this the only place I can go where it's going to be okay if I can't keep up with everyone? And the instructor's not telling me to do more and challenge yourself
Right.
and all of this. But what I found was equipment Pilates, and it was a group of other women who some had chronic illnesses, some
Mm-hmm.
had things like fibromyalgia, but the way it was run was just listen to your body, like drop into what's here. And I think for the first time in my life, I started to feel safe in
Yes.
my body again. And that is something I massively believe in. And this links into the nervous system regulation piece. I realize now
Mm-hmm.
finding that safety got me into a healing state.
Yes.
And at the same time, I also started going to see a therapist because I've had quite a lot of trauma in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was in quite a few abusive relationships. My dad died when I was young. And there's all this stuff that you just get on with.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a big effect on me. And I was just getting on with life and distracting myself. And I never had the space ever to process any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing patterns being repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the point where I was like, yeah, I think I need to go and speak to someone about this. And I remember my Thursdays used to be I'd finish work early, I'd go and see my therapist, I'd go to Pilates, and I'd go and have a nice meal. So the third piece of this was food.
Yes. Tell us about the food. Yes.
Yes. So I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm still a self-declared sugar addict, but I'm a vegan one. And veganism isn't for everybody, but as soon as I cut dairy out of my diet, I felt like someone had put my batteries back in.
Mm.
I had this surge of energy, and I tried it for a week. And I've also got mast cell activation syndrome and allergies. I have a nut allergy, so I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to be vegan full time. Everything's got nuts in. So I went back to dairy, and I felt like I was going to be sick for like 3 days. And I thought,
Mhm.
okay, my body is quite loudly trying to tell me something here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see how I get on. And that was 6 years ago now.
Mhm.
And anytime I've had a tiny bit of dairy in something, I feel awful.
Mhm.
So I leave that out of my diet.
Yeah.
And that's what's worked for me. So I had this surge of energy. I was starting to feel safe in my body, and I was unpicking some of the trauma that had happened and changing the people that I was around.
Yes.
Um, and what and realizing that, and this is something I took from us meeting in Miami with everyone else,
Mhm.
I can choose who I want to spend time with. Just
Oof.
because someone wants to be around me doesn't mean I have to give them that space or I have to do anything. I can choose who I spend my precious energy with. And I say precious not because there's a limited resource of it, but because it is something to be honored.
Exactly.
So that was all happening in kind of 2018 to 19. And just to give you a snapshot, 2016, I went to see Beyonce, love Beyonce,
Um,
had a panic attack, didn't ask for my needs to be met. They were not met quite
yes.
severely. I remember sitting on the floor in the disabled area in
Mhm.
tears, having a panic
Oh,
attack.
yeah.
2018, I went to see Beyonce again, advocated for my needs massively, took my mobility scooter. That was the last time I used it, and that was probably May 2018.
I just
Didn't
got chills.
and then that year I did a load of this work, and this work is ongoing. It always will be. There's not an end date. Um, got rid of my ex-boyfriend, a few friendships that were dragging me down,
Mhm.
and by the summer of 2019, I was living my best single life. I was in Ibiza partying for a week. And I remember getting home and spending 2 days in bed. And I was like, oh my, the ME's come back. What have I done? I've pushed my body too far. And I just remember my mum saying, Jen, I think most people that go to Ibiza for a week, hardcore partying up till the next morning every night, are probably going to spend 2 nights in bed. I don't
Yeah.
think it's the ME. You're
Mhm.
just reacting. This is a normal reaction to what
Yeah.
you've done. And I
Exactly.
think that was the point that I was actually thinking, I've gotten over this.
Mhm.
And I put the tools in to look
Mhm.
after myself. I pushed myself in Ibiza, but I did it. And
Mhm.
I had 2 days in bed, but I was fine after that.
Yes.
So
So
that was
at what point did you decide, okay, I think I want to coach about this?
so it took probably until lockdown, because at the time of all of this going on, I was working in procurement,
Mm-hmm.
which was a well-paid, stable job, but it didn't light me up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of the jobs I've been in, I've always trained people, I've communicated people, I get people together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good chatter, if you can't tell.
Love it.
um, so lockdown hit, I was in my job, and all of a sudden all my people had been taken away from me. I wasn't going into the office and having chats with people, and
Mm-hmm.
realized I didn't enjoy my job. So the one thing I loved doing was Pilates. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go train in
Yeah.
Pilates.
Yeah.
So I did that in like 2020 to 2022. Came out, oh, I'm a Pilates teacher now.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then I realized all the people that were coming to me that I really enjoyed working with were people with chronic illnesses that
Mm-hmm.
said they felt seen and validated, and that they knew I wasn't going to push them too far.
Yes.
So I really loved working with them. So over the next couple of years, I trained as an embodiment educator with the Franklin method.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got more and more curious about like what's going on in our bodies, what's going on in our mind. And I've really been taught by my clients. They've inspired me to go down these paths.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I don't think I've spoken to one person that has any form of autoimmune or chronic illness that hasn't got some kind of trauma
Yep.
and stuff that we just get on with that we don't necessarily realize is trauma. It's not
Mhm.
like me, I was in an abusive relationship and my dad died when I was young. That's big T trauma. But there's
Right.
also a lot of small T trauma that happens
Hmm.
that we don't recognize. We just get on with life.
Hmm.
And this is where a lot of these protective personality types come in
Yes.
because of this stuff. I have to be a people pleaser. I have to be a perfectionist. I have to be an
Yes.
overachiever,
Yes.
etc., etc. Like we're
Yes.
not born like that. We
Hmm.
adapt, and these
Exactly.
are no fault of yours or your parents or whoever's around you. They happen,
Hmm.
but we can become aware of them, and we don't have to live ruled by that anymore. So, where was I going with this? My clients inspired me. I then trained as an embodiment educator. I decided to become a life coach, mostly to get into compassionate inquiry, which is
Oh,
Gabor Maté's training
yes.
that I'm a month off finishing, which
Oh,
has,
so good.
yeah, and it's been such an incredible journey.
Mhm.
And like there's so much stuff of your own you have to unpack.
Of course.
And the whole kind of ethos behind it is us as therapists, we have to be a clean mirror. So we're not here to tell people to do stuff, we're here to just reflect stuff back. And
Hmm.
if our mirror is dirty with all our stuff, we can't cleanly reflect things to people. So a lot of that is past-based trauma, but it's what's stuck in the body.
Yes.
And I've also got a massive fascination with the polyvagal theory and
Hmm.
somatic work. So I haven't done a formal training in it, but I've read a lot of books. I've done a lot of nosing around and interesting on things, and I bring a lot of this into the practices. So I've kind of I call myself a somatic coach
Hmm.
because I bring all of these tools in. I'm a meditation teacher as well, and I've seen I work very intuitively, and
Yes.
this is where some people don't like that because they want the qualifications, they want the scientific evidence of
Hmm.
those that are like, let's just go where this takes us and we'll
Hmm.
see if it works. And it does, are the ones that get amazing results from this work because we're both leaning into there's no agenda here. As a
Yes.
coach, I'm not telling you in 5 sessions' time you need to be able to walk to the end of your road.
Hmm. Hmm.
Does tell us that enough? And how much pressure does that put on everyone?
Exactly. Yeah, my background is a speech language pathologist. We would make goals for people. So as we're making those goals, like I can see how it can be so pressurized. Like uh, even as I was making goals for like little kids or for adults that are like post stroke or like, on ventilators, I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm just guessing it takes this long. Instead, now as a coach, I'm like, let's just go down this path and see where it takes us. See, like
Exactly.
with curiosity, because I think it's interesting too. You had talked about how you would push yourself, and it was really nice to not have somebody that like a yoga teacher that was also pushing you and not giving you a lot of options. I think that a lot of people that experience chronic fatigue and chronic illness, we are pushers. We push ourselves to the brink, but then I think a lot of us don't see that we do that. We don't actually like internalize that that's more than what we need to be pushing ourselves. So I'm just curious if you want to speak to that point and like how not having an agenda actually helps to heal a lot of that patterning.
I think so much of it is permission, and
Mhm.
with permission comes power and a power
Yes.
dynamic. And if I'm giving you permission to not have to set goals, I've still got the power over you. Whereas when we
Mhm.
both turn up and we're like, let's just see where this goes. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Like we are in equal measures then.
Mhm.
We can both explore where this goes together and keep checking in. And is this okay? And yeah, I think the permission piece around it and the pushing, like you said, we're not aware of this often. And society, I've been told just go to bed earlier, or have you tried this? And there's a lot of like blame, like you're not trying hard
Yes.
enough. Why have you not done this? And all of those external voices that we hear are probably 10, 100-fold in our own heads. So when we have another voice coming in and saying, well, you need to have done X, Y, Z by this time, it's just more pressure. And then we start to feel shame and guilt, and we're in that icky place of, we shrink. And I can feel myself doing it now. We constrict. There's no growth there. There's no compassion. There's no healing. We are just stuck in that dorsal freeze, shut down. I'm not enough.
Exactly.
Whereas when we are seen as our authentic selves, and this is what I see in clients, when they might come in and say, well, my intention today was to move, but they've sat and cried with me for an hour. And generally, we don't cry for an hour, but there'll be ups and downs in it.
Right.
Normally, like 90 seconds an emotion will generally last, but sometimes we spend our hour session just processing emotions. That's okay. Whereas if they came in and said, I want to move, and all this stuff comes up, and I'm like, right, forget that, you're moving. It doesn't feel right. We're not seeing them as they are. And it's bringing these new neural pathways in to let people see that they can show up as their authentic selves, say that they need what they need, and those needs are met. There's just so much less pressure around it. So
it's interesting. Like, I was actually, oh, sorry. I think that it was lagging a little bit. Sorry about, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying, good question. Carry on.
Oh, good question. I know I was just talking to a client today, and she was talking about just feeling so much pressure. And I think that part of that is we don't realize that even though it feels like the pressure's coming from outside of us, it's actually being created internally. And that's just a pattern that, like you said, it has protected us for so long. It has, in a sense, kept us safe from what we thought was so dangerous. But the pressure, it mounts to a place where then we're like, why do I feel so exhausted? Well, I've been operating from these very energy taxing states for a very long time. It actually makes sense why my body would feel like I can't do anything right now.
Exactly. We're in protection mode. And this was what I experienced when I went to see that doctor, that I was seen and listened to for the first time. And like, I've got a self-paced course coming up, and all of the feedback that I'm getting so far is, I don't want to sign up for another thing I'm going to fail at. So it's designed as a 4-week course. So do it in 4 weeks if you want to, but you've got lifetime access. So there's no pressure to do it in any time. You can come to it, you can do 2 minutes at a time if you want. They're 20-minute long videos, but you know that you don't have to do it a certain way. And it's almost being able to have that permission of, I'm going to take this course, this opportunity in life, this circumstance, and do it my way. And that's okay.
I love that so much. Okay. So, Jenny, can you tell us, what do you think is your best piece of advice for somebody that is struggling with their energy and wants to improve their energy levels? I know you've given us like a lot of different things, but what do you think your best piece of advice would be for the people that are listening that are like, I'm just stuck and I feel this really low energy. What should I do next?
So I think there's 2 things here. I know you said one.
That's fine. You can give me as many as you want.
I'll be here all day. I think noticing who you're around and who gives you energy and who takes your energy. And if possible, don't see the people that take your energy, or reduce seeing them as much as you can. And those that, as we say in the UK, big you up, you know, boost you up, make you feel energized, spend more time around them, because you're going to feel better just by being around those people. And start to tune into what's going on in your body. So my best friend laughs at me because I say this all the time. She says I need to get it tattooed on my forehead. Listen to your body. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to dive into all the trauma and the stories and what's happening. It can be as simple as, what do I feel like eating this morning? Do I want toast or do I want porridge? Just those little things. Am I stopping myself from going to the toilet because I'm in a meeting? Okay, listen to the body's urge. you need to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
How's your breath? And just starting to get curious and not judging it, and just listening to those little cues. And this is a little bit of what my new course is about, is like the foundation to start tuning into what's here. Because one thing I see is people are so determined to get better that they'll either invest in a massive program of,
Mhm.
lots of expectations, or
Right.
movement. They're like, right, I've joined the gym, I'm gonna go 3 times a week, and it's just too much. And it doesn't mean you can't do it, but if you're not tuning into what's going on in your body, you're going to push past your limits,
Yes.
you're going to crash, and then you're going to feel rubbish about yourself because you've
Mhm.
overdone it.
Mhm.
So really just learning to tune into the body, listening to the breath, finding co-regulation with people if that feels too scary to do on your own. Yeah, and building that will help you build a foundation and
Oh, I love
increase
it.
your energy levels from there.
I love it so much. I know. Like I said, I was coaching with somebody, and we'd done she's a newer client, so we were doing some somatic tracking, and it was so fascinating because I think a lot of people that have chronic illness, we are pretty intellectual. We're like, I need to
Yeah.
understand it. I got to overthink this, like feel it, like I'll pass on that. Tell me like all of the, like you said, all the science behind it, which I do geek
Mhm.
out on it. I love the science too. Um but as we practice that somatic tracking, being really curious with the sensations in her body, for those of you that don't necessarily know that term, as she was doing it, she was like, my body kept saying, I, you've never done this before. You've never actually listened to me. She's like, I thought I was listening to my body, but I've never taken the time to actually like pay this gentle, caring attention to what I'm experiencing in the moment. And I think that was the same thing for me. Like the first time I had like an experience of somatic tracking, I actually had just had a jaw surgery. I had a large cyst removed from my jaw. I was like growing it in towards my ear. It was great. So, um, I found a coach, and she was talking about chronic pain and somatic tracking, and I was just watching the sensations in my mouth like kind of move around. I was like, what voodoo magic thing is going on here? Because I was so disconnected from my body. And I think that when people hear, "Oh, listen to your body," I think that they're thinking, "Oh, my body's going to tell me like to go sit down on the couch and eat potato chips." Maybe you do need to do that, by the way. There's no judgment for that. But also, maybe your body wants to communicate messages to you and you're not being still enough. And even like just knowing the skill of how to do it, being guided by somebody to understand how to be curious and let go of the judgment, because that is our nemesis, is just being so judgmental of the sensations of our whatever physical symptoms that we're having, just brushing that part of us away and just wanting it to leave. That actually compounds it and contributes to that physical exhaustion.
Yeah. And I think there's two really important things that you've reminded me of here. One of them is we live in our heads because our
Yep.
body is often too painful to exist in. So we go up here, we live in the stories, we research all the stuff because we don't want to drop into our body. So there's a perfectly explainable reason we do this. It's not that we're wrong or weak or don't have enough willpower or whatever. That part of us is just trying to protect us. And the second part is when we actually go into our bodies and we are probably co-regulating with someone safe,
Mhm.
that we're feeling this stuff. And my God, it feels good. And it's so much easier. The big, scary, oh my God, what if these emotions kill me? They will
Mhm.
not kill you. And they pass so much quicker than you think. We spend hours, days, years pushing them away and avoiding them, but when we are safe enough to just allow them, they really don't last that long.
Mhm.
But if you haven't been safely co-regulated with, and this is where a lot of the trauma work and the somatic stuff comes in, we don't know any different. All we know in our life is to avoid it, push it down, keep it away. The first few times we experience it, it is scary.
Yes.
It's completely petrifying. But
Mm-hmm.
then I see this in clients so many times that they go, oh, it's gone.
I
I
know.
just needed to give it attention, or it's eased, and it's moved.
Mm-hmm.
We can follow pain around the body all day.
I
It
know.
moves, it eases, it gets better. Because often it's like that screaming toddler you see in the supermarket. They just want attention.
Yes.
And if we're shouting at them, they just get louder.
Mm-hmm.
Same with our bodies.
100%. That was an analogy we talked about today too, was listening to the screaming toddler. I often will tell my clients our brains speak through thoughts and our bodies speak through sensations because our
Yeah, I
body
love
doesn't
that.
have the vocabulary. So it's going to help us feel a certain way. And if it can't get our attention with a whisper, it'll
Mm-hmm.
scream, just like
Mm-hmm.
you were saying.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jenny, do you have any current goals that you are working on for yourself? And when I say goal, it's not hustle culture. Like we gotta like get out there and go do the stuff. So, but just anything that's a priority or a focus for you right now.
Yeah, so I'm working on two things at the moment, and one of them's a personal goal, which is, well, they're both kind of personal. Um, I have recently realised I have ADHD, which often we exhaust ourselves.
Yep.
ME, chronic fatigue, comes along. I've started leaning into that and being more compassionate about it
Mhm.
and looking at my strengths. So I've been working with an ADHD coach, and
Awesome.
so much of the work we're doing is around regulation, and I love talking about somatic work and regulating the nervous system. I do lots of workshops and talks on the nervous system and actually applying it to myself, because as
Mhm.
coaches we can quite often talk to people about this and then think, well, why am I not doing it myself?
Mhm.
And I only really want to work with someone that has been there themselves, has done the work.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I expect for myself. I don't take clients anywhere that I've not been myself. And
Mhm.
this is where all of this work is a lifetime journey. You don't get to a point where you're like, I'm healed. There's layers. I
Mhm.
can go and do what I want in life now, but I have to look after myself. And this is one of these things, is looking after myself, noticing how it is to be in an ADHD neurospicy brain,
I
and
love
all
it.
the joy, but also some of the setbacks it comes with.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's probably my personal goal.
Love it.
And another personal slash work goal is I'm writing a book at the moment.
Ooh.
So yes, it literally came about 2 weeks ago. So it's very early stages, but I've heard from so many people recently, share your story, you're inspirational. And there's a little voice in my head that's saying, no one will read it and no one's interested. And who are you to talk about this stuff? I think we've all got those voices.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just seen the voices and gone, okay, thank you. You're there to protect me. Maybe I should write a book. Maybe people do want to listen to it, what I have to say. So I'm dedicating a couple of hours every week and giving myself like a writing date with myself to actually
Ooh.
go and do it. So yeah, that's a goal I have, and I'm doing it in an ADHD friendly way as well.
Mhm.
Because I know if I sit at home on my computer, I will get overwhelmed and distracted. So I'm leaving the house and having a nice hot chocolate and going
Ooh,
to Pilates afterwards. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. Thanks for asking.
amazing. Yes. Okay. So who specifically do you work with? Like who would be a great person to work with you? And are there any like tell us like how people can find you? And I think you also have something for my audience that I'm going to put a little link to. So you want to tell us all of the things.
So the people that I tend to see and I love working with are people that have chronic illnesses, so things like ME, fibromyalgia, long COVID, basically anyone that doesn't feel safe in their body.
Mhm.
And that can be often from trauma, that can be from these kinds of illnesses, and they're ready to look outside of the box a little bit. They're not just looking for like a magic pill and an explanation that your mitochondria has a issue in it and that's the thing. There's this is multi-complex. There's a lot to these conditions,
Mhm.
and they're curious to see where this takes them. if there's a hard, I need to be better by this time, then I don't work with people like that.
Yeah.
If you're open and curious, and generally it's people that are looking after other people, they put everyone else's needs first,
Yep.
they are overachievers, perfectionists, they're always on the go, burnt out. So if you are any of those people, I offer one-to-one coaching. I am also aware that there's a lot of people who aren't able to access one-to-one coaching because of their illness. So I've come up with a new course called Energize, which is a 4-week course, but lifetime access, so no pressure to do it. Do it in your own time. And that's going to be the foundation, the building blocks to maybe then going out to yoga, taking longer walks, doing whatever you want in life, adding to that. But that's a really good place to start. I also teach monthly workshops, which are £20, $30-ish once a month. They can be on a range of topics. At the moment, I'm on a 4-part series about the nervous system and talking about stress cycles and the polyvagal theory and how to feel safe, how to anchor into safety in your body. So I've designed it so I've got something that pretty much everyone can access. Some of me. To your question, where can people find me?
Sorry, the internet was kind of wonky for a second.
Is it glitched?
Yes.
What's the rest of your question? Where can people find me?
Yes.
So I post loads of free content on Instagram. I'm at Chronic Illness Coach. And I've got a Facebook group as well, which is called How to Recover from Chronic Illnesses. The link will be in the show notes. Can never remember the exact title of it.
Yes, just look in those.
Yeah, really good community in there. Come and ask questions, and it's a positive community where we're not all complaining about things all day every day. It's celebrate your wins. Let's celebrate each other. And I've also got a freebie. So did you know there are 7 different ways to rest and what they might be? So I've got a little journal handout for anyone that's curious about what those rest states are and also what they can look like to you. So one of them, for example, is creative rest. So to me, that is going to crochet with my mum. I like drawing as well, so that's my creative rest, is doing things with my hands. Might be different to you. So if you want that handout, then you can join my mailing list and the handout will come to you on there. So lots of stuff going on, and my DMs are always open. So I'm always open to hearing things from people and seeing how I can support them, because this is a career path that I do out of love and seeing people living their best lives. It's not financial based. It's to make the world a better place, because there's too many people out there suffering, and especially post-COVID, there's a lot of people, and especially women, suffering with these conditions, and it doesn't have to be that way. So if I can finish on one thing, there is hope. Recovery is possible. We are living proof. You can get your life back. You don't have to live like this forever.
100%. I was thinking about that this morning as I was getting out of the shower. I was just thinking about, the years that I spent like living on the couch, being mom to little kids. And it did get better after my kidney transplant, but it didn't go away. And I still had a lot of chronic fatigue that I thought would be healed from having a functioning kidney. And it wasn't until I learned about my nervous system and learned how to repattern so much of the responses that I had and the relationship that I had with my body that I started to really heal, like fully heal. So again, like Jenny said, we are examples of what is possible. Like when I heard her, like I literally, I think we only talked for maybe like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Like total in Florida. But I was like, we are each other's people. And she's like, I used to be in a wheelchair. And I'm like, you're going to go to the Florida Keys. And then she came back, guys. And she got engaged too. We didn't even tell that fun part. So, like, there is so much hope that's possible. And again, like Jenny said, it's not that there's never any setbacks, but if you have just felt like this is the end, like this is just as good as life is going to get, that's no longer true. There's so much science and there's so many opportunities for healing that I didn't think were possible, that now both of us are living proof that it is possible to heal, even in really challenging situations and circumstances.
Yeah. And I would also say if I went back to living the way I lived when I was ill, I'd be ill again now.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
takes some change and lifestyle changes and looking inwards,
Yes.
but it is worth it. It's not easy, but it is so worth it because I can go and do whatever I want now. And I spent that road trip driving down to the Keys crying half the time because I was like, I can't believe I've done this. Like, I couldn't even get through an airport on my own a few years ago. I've traveled an ocean on my own, met all these amazing women, and now I've picked up a Dodge Challenger and I'm on a road trip solo and I've got this and I'm loving life. And then I come home and get engaged at Heathrow Airport. And guess what? We're getting married in the Florida Keys
Stop
next
it.
month.
I didn't know that. So
Yeah,
amazing.
planning our wedding back in Miami in the Keys for next year. So yay.
Wow. Well,
So
big congratulations. And if you want any of the resources that Jenny has, I'm going to put a bunch of things in the show notes so you can look at that. Go follow her on Instagram. Her content is phenomenal. And I just have absolutely adored you and loved this interview with you. So thanks for joining us on Get Your Energy Back, Jenny.
thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing to have a little chat about all of this. So thank you.
You are welcome. All right. Have a good week, everyone.